On today's show, we want to cover what it really takes to start up your own business. All right, welcome to the show. Glad to have you all today. We want to thank our sponsors, the people who take time out to listen to us also, and just really have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about being an entrepreneur. We're going to talk about opening your own business, how to start it, with the things to do on it, and we're going to get started with those things here in just a minute. But we got one quick station break for you.
We'll be back with more Life and Times with Mike and Terry.
All right, well, we're back now, and we want to talk about some things that I've been handling a lot recently about work. But sometimes people work for themselves, and sometimes people work for other people. And there's both of them are great. Both of them are honorable. All work is honorable. If you work for yourself and you own your own business, that's one way to go about it. But you know what? Working for a company and being an employee is a great thing too. So today we're going to talk about being in business for yourself. In an upcoming video, one of the things that we're going to cover too is that every Pharaoh needs a Joseph. So everybody needs a second, a number two, and what it takes to be a number two. So we'll cover that in another show. Terry and I have multiple businesses, and we've got multiple partners in those businesses. And some of us are what we like to call serial entrepreneurs. One of our companies is Health Research Systems. That's probably the longest one that we've had. It's almost 29 years old. And Health Research Systems manages drug and alcohol testing programs for large companies, small companies, government entities and agencies. We handle background checks. We do DNA paternity testing. We're expert witnesses for drug testing cases. We do all kinds of things like that. And it's been a great business for us. Wellspring Housing is another one of our businesses. It's a rental company. We purchase distressed homes and we remodel them and we put them out as rentals. So we really believe that we're making a difference here where we live, and we're changing the area we live one house at a time is really what our motto is, to bring back some of these old dilapidated houses and really putting them in good condition, and then putting them out as a nice place for a rental for a family. We also have A&M Property Maintenance. We maintain and manage properties for sometimes other entrepreneurs who are in the rental business. We also have Renew Construction. Renew Construction is a full-blown construction company. My partner in that is Ashley Finn and Aaron Casto, and Aaron's a licensed contractor. So, we actually go into people's homes and we do full remodels. We do new construction. We can build new houses. So we do things like that too. So all of those three things kind of go together: the maintenance, the housing portion of it with Wellspring, and then Renew Construction. We also have an Amazon used book business. We also sell other Amazon products too. So I'm doing that with my nephew and my boys. I've got two sons, and we're doing that all together, and me and Terry and them. So there's a lot of different things that you can get involved with, and like I say, we're probably considered a serial entrepreneur, but we love what we do. We believe that we've been called to do these things and to help people, and that's what we're doing. So that's certainly one of the areas in our life where we are the number one, where we're the entrepreneur. We're the one who wants to open the business. But you know what? In other areas of life, I'm a number two, and I'm a good number two. We basically have in many areas put ourselves under other people with ministry and other situations, where we go in and we help people. Believe that God's called us to help folks, and that's what we do. So for a long time, being an entrepreneur is the in thing. It's the glamorous thing to do. But if you're not called to it, it's a really tough way to go. It can make you unhappy really quickly, and a lot of this is about being happy, doing the things that you want to do. There's a difference between being happy and making one amount of money and being unhappy and making another amount of money. So would you rather be, say, unhappy and making $200,000 a year, or would you rather be happy and making $85,000 a year? I think I'd take the latter. I want to be happy in life. I want to enjoy what I'm doing, and I want to have an opportunity to help other people, and that it be a blessing to my life and to others too. What's the true definition? Risk is faith. In my book, you spell faith R-I-S-K. It takes money. You're risking failure. You got responsibility. If you have employees, you got responsibility there for other people's lives. You've got the management of the business. It takes time and effort and a little bit of knowledge. Actually, quite a bit of knowledge. Profitable businesses close. They go down the tubes every day just because they don't do one thing, and that's manage their cash flow. Cash flow management is very, very, very important. They've got this great profitable business, but because they didn't understand cash flow management and they didn't understand how to manage their cash, then they go out of business. They go bankrupt. So that's a real important part of it, is having a little bit of idea how to run a business and what to do with it. So to start a business, you need to assess your current capacity. What do you have? What do you don't have? You're going to need a team of people even to get started. It's one of those things where you don't want to be foolish. In getting started, you want to make sure that you've got the capital that you need. You want to make sure that you have an understanding of the legal ramifications and the issues that it requires to start a business. All of this is necessary. You got to have everything ready and laid out before you start. If you don't do that, you're going to put yourself in a position and really be in a position to fail, and that's not what we want. We want you prepared. So that's what I'm getting ready to do today, is to be in a situation where I can try to help you through that. I've done it multiple times, and we've been successful at it. Hey, we've had some failures too, but it's one of those things where if at first you don't succeed, try again. That's kind of what we believe on the thing. We've learned from the failures, and then that's really made us better at going forward. Tell you what, it's time to take a break here. We again want to thank all the sponsors out there, the people who sponsor our show, and we're going to take about a 3-minute break here, and then we'll be right back with the show. Thanks.
We'll be back with more Life and Times with Mike and Tari.
All right, welcome back to the show. This is Mike with Life and Times. So we're going to talk about business plans here in this next segment. Great place to start is an online template. Get a template of a business plan. There's a lot of them out there. Anything you don't know, you need to go one place, google.com, Google.com. It's a great place to learn a lot of things. Go to Google. Google has all of this stuff, so you can find business plans. You can look and see what templates there are out there, what other people have said about it, and then try to fill in your own information so that you've got an idea of where you need to go and what you need to do from startup all the way through your first 5 years. Really get an idea, because if you don't lay it down and you don't have a good understanding of where you need to go, you'll be wandering aimlessly through that jungle, so to speak. So you really want to have a good plan laid out there. You got to decide what you're going to do. Is it going to be a product? Is it going to be a service? Is it going to be both? Is it going to be intellectual type things, just ideas where you're licensing stuff, sales? You got to figure out what type of income you can expect from it. Payroll, expenses, how to do all of that, bookkeepers, attorneys, accountants, basically, just specialization in certain areas, some of the things that we're going to talk about later in the video. And you have to be very specific. You want to have really good goals. You want to have really good idea where it is you want to go and how you're going to get there. You can't go to some place you've never been unless you got a good roadmap. So it's your job to design the roadmap to make sure that you're taking the right roads and traveling the right way. You need to be wise. Mentors are great. I've been in health research systems for almost 29 years, and I have a business coach. He comes in twice a month and spends a couple hours each time with me, and he forces me to do things that I don't want to do, look at things that I don't want to look at, do the stuff that I may not necessarily enjoy, but he helps me get through those things and helps me become a better entrepreneur, a better business owner, a better boss. all of those things are really, really good. So you want to walk with wise men. You want to walk with people who are better than you, wise men and wise women. People that know their craft, because it takes a whole lot of different things to be an entrepreneur. You got to be a salesperson. You got to be someone who understands the finances. You got to be someone who understands a little bit about legal stuff. You got to be somebody who understands a little bit about human resources and hiring. You got to be somebody that understands all of these different things, and you got to get good at it as you move forward. So bring people into your realm that are good at these things. Go introduce yourself to people. Join some organizations. Talk to people. Let them know what it is you do. If you find somebody that's got some particular knowledge that you may need, ask them, hey, can you help me? People are so willing to help. If you approach it right and you ask somebody to help you, most of the time they're going to jump right in there and give you a hand. So really finding good people to surround yourself with. You got to count the cost. You got to understand that being in your own business is going to require more than the old 9 to 5. You're not going to be showing up at work at 9 o'clock and leaving at 5 o'clock and calling it a day sometimes. There are times that you're going to be working into the evenings or into the night, or you're going to be getting up earlier than what you maybe were used to. Hard work. One of the motivational speakers I love to listen to says, what? You've seen nobody who's successful, truly successful, who built it themselves that didn't flat work their face off. And that's sometimes what you got to do. You got to be patient, you got to work hard, and you got to just keep moving forward and move through the difficult times and things. We got to just drive our mind to be the best that we can be. People talk about that they want to own their own business so that they can make more money. Well, that's one reason, but it really needs to be those things in life that you love, that you want to be a part of. That you want to do, because if you don't have that in you, if part of it's not just about the game, about being in there and slugging it out and going to work every day, if part of it's not that, the money's not gonna come, and it's not gonna be enough. Everybody's got this idea. Well, I need to make. I'm going to make $1 million a year. Really? You know that the top 1% of all owners in the entire world make about, just a little over $400,000 a year. So this idea of being a multi-millionaire and making millions of dollars is sometimes a little misguided. You've got to really, really figure out why you're in it. I'm in it to change my life and to change other people's lives. I want to change my kids' life. I want to change their kids' life. I want to change their kids' life. I want to be in a position where that my children's children's children have a changed life, that I can make an effect on that. And that's really what I want to do. And I believe that's what God's called us to do. When you talk about making $1 million a year, think about that. What's that mean? Break it down. Do you know that that's $83,333 a month? Do you know that that's $19,230 a week? Do you know that that's $2,740 a day? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of work in order to generate that. That's truly, you're going to have to work your face off. You're going to have to be good at what you do. You're going to have to learn. You're going to have to bring that team in. You're going to have to handle all of that stuff from a standpoint of just getting things in place so that you can do it, because you can't do it all yourself. There's no way you're going to be able to go out there by yourself and generate the type of income that you want to, whether that's $50,000 a year, or whether that's $100,000 a year, or whether that's 200 or 400 or $1 million, whatever it is, whatever you're called to do, whatever your capacity is, because people have different capacities, then whatever you're called to do, that's going to take work to do that, and it's going to take a certain commitment. Let's talk about actually forming the business. First, you got to come up with a name. Find something that you like. Don't be too quick to make that decision. Talk it over with people that you trust, family, whoever. Come up with a name, and try to make the name not too ethereal. Make it people understand what it is you do and what you're selling or what you're offering within the name, if you can. So pick the name carefully. Getting that name, you got to go usually to your Secretary of State, like where we live here. We go to the Secretary of State's website, and we can do a name search, and we can see if a name is available. And then at that point, Other states are going to differ. You may actually have to file paperwork, or you may not be able to do it like this. But this is the way it is where we live. And I go on there and I pull up the name and I put it in there, and it tells me whether it's available or not. Then it gives me the opportunity to online fill out the information, and then at that point I can put the name in there. It actually, there's a certain point in the application where that it allows me to go to the IRS's website and get an EIN, an employer identification number, federal employer identification number, and to be able to get that and get those two things taken care of really probably in about 20 to 30 minutes. But within that, you have to know what type of business entity you want to be. This is where you need to talk to an attorney. This is my disclaimer. I'm not an attorney. I'm not telling you how to do it. I'll tell you how I did it, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Where we really came into this, we picked the name, and then we decided that on our first business, we were going to be a subchapter S corporation, because that was really all that was available then, 30 years ago, 29 years ago. Was a subchapter S. A subchapter S is structured basically so that the income of that business flows through to my personal income, my personal tax return, and I only pay the personal tax rates rather than the corporate tax rates. At that time, that was a good way to do it. LLCs, limited liability companies, are very, very popular these days, and it's probably a good choice for most people. But again, you need to talk to an attorney and find out what your choice is. LLCs, again, are pass-through entities or flow-through entities where that income flows through to the personal, to each of the partners in equal proportion. If you own 25% of the business, you get 25% of the profits flowing through to your personal tax return. If you own 100% of it, 100% of it comes through to your personal tax return. We have multiple LLCs, and I have, our particular structure is I have one LLC that's above them all, and then a bunch of them below it, and then everything flows through to that one LLC, and then that one LLC flows through to me. There are reasons for some of these things about why you do it, that way. There are, in certain years, there's been discounts on the money on a pass-through entity coming out that say you made $100,000 of pass-through income, and as it's coming into you, you get like a 20% discount some years on it that you only have to then flow through 80%. So those types of things, make a difference in what your tax base is and what you're able to, not paying taxes on money is okay. Avoiding taxes on money is a whole different story. So you want to pay as little as you can without being illegal on it. That's why you need a good accountant too. If you're going national, when you're picking that name, then you're going to have to look at some different things. You're going to have to look at, is that name available on a national level? And what I mean by that is can you trademark it? If you're going to be out there dealing on a national basis, all 50 states, internationally or whatever, you may need to look at trademarking. Trademarking is not difficult, but trademarking takes time. Trademarking is something where you take a name or a logo, and then at that point, you apply to the federal government through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and have an attorney do that for you. It costs a particular amount of money to do that, and then at that point you have some protection for that name on a national level. One of the other things you may want to look at is when you're picking that name, can you get a URL for it? The www.com, whatever it is. I like to use a website called EasyDNS. GoDaddy's out there. I don't care for GoDaddy as much. EasyDNS seems to be easier for me to manage. And so I use EasyDNS, and then I buy the URL that way. URLs are fairly inexpensive, anywhere between $15 and $30 a year just for the URL. One of the things, people think, well, if I get that URL, then what about email? And then I got to have this company or that company. Most of the time, and particularly with EasyDNS, you can actually have an email forwarding. So if, say, I make the URL, www.healthresearchsystems.com. That's my company. And say I didn't want to have a true email server on there or pay a company to do it, and I've got maybe another email address, I can tell EasyDNS to say, mday@healthresearchsystems.com, I want to flow through this other email address, and it'll automatically forward those emails to me. So I get that good professional look that I've got my .com out there, my URL that I own, and an email address that flows through to that, rather than it being, jojo at, gmail.com. Not that there's anything wrong with Gmail, but just the fact that it doesn't look near as professional to have that address than it would. It looks a whole lot better if you've got your own .com. So use EasyDNS to forward your email. Your EIN number, is very specific, and you have to have it in order to do some certain things. You got to have it for banks. You got to have it for what's other things that we'll talk about. Consult your attorney though. Find a good attorney. And again, I'm not giving legal advice. That's why I want you to go talk to an attorney. But decide on whether it's a sole proprietorship, a partnership, an LLC, an S corp, a C corp. Pass-through entities, where how you're gonna handle the taxes. Is it going to be like an S corp, or what's it going to do? One of the ideas that we operate in is keeping a separation of our employees from the assets, particularly like our real estate company. We make sure we keep the houses and the buildings separate from the company that hires the employees. That way you've got some type of protection there between the two in the event of a problem that they can't get, a lawsuit couldn't get to the assets. So that's one of the strategies there. I know sometimes some of these things sound harsh, but it's good business in this day and time. We live in a litigious society, and sometimes people aren't too forgiving. But all right, well, you know what? It's time for a station break. We're going to take that, and we'll be back in just a minute.
We'll be back with more Life and Times with Mike and Terry.
All right, well, welcome back. We're going to talk about checking accounts here in this next segment, and a few other things, and how to handle the setting up of your business. But let's talk about the checking account first. You're going to go to the bank, and you're going to ask them to set up a checking account for your new business name, the one that you just created on your Secretary of State site, the one that you've got the EIN number for, the one that you've talked to your attorney about how the taxes are going to flow through. And they're going to ask you for a couple things. They're going to ask you, one, for that EIN number, and two, they're going to ask you for articles of incorporation where you registered with your state, or articles of forming your LLC. They'll want to see those. In our instance, and in my state, you're actually able to print those out whenever you do your registration. So we definitely want to make sure that you have that information before you go to the bank, or they're going to turn you around and send you right back out the door. They're not going to be able to do it for you. So you have to have that info in setting up your bank account. Plus, you have to have a little bit of money to deposit in the account. So make sure you take those things with you. Your address, it's a big deal. Don't just make it your apartment. 501, A Street, apartment number 3. Doesn't look professional. Don't make it your home address. You can, if it's a bricks and mortar store, obviously you're going to have a bricks and mortar address, right there in town, or wherever it is you are, wherever you're located, you're going to have that address. A good thing to do is we have all of our mail, because we've had to move from different locations as we've grown over the year. We have all of our mail in our hometown here put to a P.O. box. That way you don't have to change your address. Everything's at the P.O. box. You just go to the P.O. box every day and pick up your mail. And if you need to move to a different location at some point, then all of that's taken care of, and you don't have to worry about the change of address. Everything still flows through to the P.O. box. There's UPS stores out there. UPS stores, most of them have a box service where you can have that street, and a box number there that gives you a very professional look. Plus, if you're not in your business all day, every day, say you're out selling, you're a single entrepreneur, that there's nobody else there, you don't have people coming in, maybe, or you're working out of your house and it doesn't require people to come into your place, then they can actually receive deliveries for you. Say, for anything coming in from FedEx or UPS, or say you order something from Amazon, you don't have to have it sitting on the front porch or where somebody can take it or whatever. They can actually receive your deliveries for you. So UPS store is really a good place to get an address also. Again, make sure that you bring in your team. Attorneys specialize. One attorney a lot of times is not going to be enough. You're going to need to talk to different ones. There's tax attorneys, there's real estate attorneys, there's attorneys that specialize in business, there's just attorneys that specialize in taxes, and whatever. There's all these different specialties out there, and you're going to need to find the right one. It's like going to a mechanic that specializes in Hondas, he may not be able to work on Mercedes. So you got to make sure you have the right guy doing the right job or the right woman doing the right job. Make sure you got the right attorney to do the right job. Trademark attorneys. Trademark attorneys are very specialized. You might want to consider consulting one of those if you go on a national level. Trademarking, one of the things I didn't cover is the length of time. Trademark can sometimes take 4 months to a year to get done. It's not very easy to get done, and it takes an attorney that knows what they're doing in order to walk through that process. It's a lot of paperwork, and you're going to have an attorney on the other side, on the government side, quizzing you and asking you questions and trying to find out, when your first usage was and all these different things. We've trademarked 5 or 6 different names over the years, so I'm experienced with that process. So, but you got to have a good attorney do it. You got to have a good bookkeeper. You got to have a good accountant. Bookkeeping is paramount. If it's not, it's the old garbage in, garbage out. If you're not putting the right information in, then you don't have the information that you need for taxes, and then tax time is going to be an absolute nightmare and a headache. You got to make sure you've got that information taken care of. Startup costs, figure out what your minimum to get involved with and triple it. Make sure you've got enough to start up and to make it through the period of time that you need to make it through in order to be successful. You've got to have all these things in place, and the thing is we don't see the future. We don't know what's going to happen. You might have one customer that delays a payment, or one customer that drops a contract. All these things, you got to have all of this stuff in mind, that things aren't necessarily going to go the way that you thought they were. So you really, really have to be cognizant of that and have the added extra income that you're going to need in order to make that work for you. So just be careful, and then, like I said, triple it. You want to consider maybe small business loans. The Small Business Association loans out there. There's some good things to look at. You got to jump through a lot of hoops. You got to be ready to go through the process. You got to have the business plan. You got to have the attorney. You got to have the bookkeeper. You got to have all that stuff, and then you got to have it really laid out for them. But if you need that, if you're willing to go that route, then you really need to look at that and say, okay, hey, I'm willing to go there. And then you go talk to some of the banks that handle these SBA loans, and the SBA will step up for you and basically be responsible for it if you meet the criteria. So that's really, really a good place to be too. The other thing that you might want to look at is just, what kind of employees are you going to need? Is it going to be something in the beginning where it's just going to be you, or are you going to have to hire? You really, really need to consider that. You really need to take a look at, how am I going to screen these people? Is it going to be people that I know? Sometimes hiring family's tough. Sometimes hiring friends is tough. Sometimes you need to just step outside of that and bring in somebody that has the skill set. And sometimes maybe you feel like you're going to have to overpay for that, but it's really, really worth it. They're going to free you up to do some of the things that you need to do, because one of the big things that my business coach always tells me is don't work in your business, work on your business. Those are really, really key things there. Well, the show's going to come to a close right now. We've got to wrap it up. We thank you again for being with us. It's great to have our audience out there. And this show actually was generated from some questions that came from our audience, and we appreciate that. We certainly appreciate our sponsors, that they take care of us and that they stick with us and really allow us to do this show. And we sure appreciate them also. So this is Mike with Life and Times, and our next show is going to be about Every Pharaoh Needs a Joseph and how to be an excellent number 2. Thanks again for being with us. We'll see you later.
Thanks for joining us on Life and Times with Mike and Tari Day. Join us next week at the same time on this station, or connect with us on the show page at ignitefm.com.